Have you found the same thoughts happening over and over again, no matter how much you try to stop them? Have you felt that you've been overthinking? If so, this video is for you. We're going to look at this very question that I actually got last week from a client. How do I stop overthinking? And I hope to bring something really valuable to you. Again, it was last week. It was within BedTyme, the app, and I had a client who literally said these 5 words. Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Yeah, 5 words to me. And when I saw that, I was like, I thought you could tell so much from these few words. You can tell when somebody asks you, how do I stop overthinking, without knowing anything else about this person. You can tell, you can see that they have been facing this kind of flow of the same type of thoughts. It's probably been very similar type of thoughts because they've been bothered by them. You can tell that they're probably been facing some type of anxiety or some worry, because that's when we really kind of get the same thoughts over and over and over again, right? We can see that they're bothered by this flow of thoughts, and we can see that this person has tried to stop it. That's, all that we can tell from just this question: how do I stop overthinking? And so again, that's what we're going to talk about today. But to do things just a little bit differently than I usually do, I would say that if you are quite familiar with the content of this channel, then I invite you to pause the video here and try to find the 2 answers, the 2 invitations that are in the, like, there's two specific things that I think we can really see. And when somebody said, how do I stop overthinking? So by all means, if you're familiar with the content here, try to pause the video and find these the 2 answers, the 2 invitations that we see in this phrase. If you're new to the channel, just keep going. So okay, let's continue here. So there are again 2 answers/invitations here, and I put them as A and B. And in A, to kind of understand A here, I would say that it really helps to understand that thoughts are these little messages. It's kind of little messages from the brain. The brain makes an idea consciously available to us, so that we can choose, to act upon it or do something with it. But it's basically just a little message, right? And now I have 2 kids. They're 8 and 10 years old, and they often get into these arguments, right? And we can learn a lot from them. And one is, and I remember this from my own childhood, when my sibling or friend or something, they were just annoying me so much that sometimes I would just literally try to, like, put my hand over their mouth. There was nothing. There's never any harm to anyone, right? But sometimes you just, like, you gotta stop talking. You literally try to put your mouth over somebody else's hand like that. Did that ever work? Of course it never worked, right? The idea is it's very straightforward. Like, if I just put my hand over this person's mouth, they will stop talking, but that just never happens, because the other person kind of always wiggles out, and, like, they continue annoying me, right? Or in the case of my kids, like, the one who's trying to stop the other from talking just gets more and more annoyed because the other one just doesn't stop talking, right? I think this tells us so much. So if you ever try this, that it does not work. You cannot just put your hand over somebody else's mouth, because that person will find another way of getting their message to you. And that's exactly the same kind of internally. Thoughts are messages, and the more we try to stop the message, the stronger it wants to be heard, right? So the first clue here, the first answer is, when we see this phrase, how do I stop, we know that the attempt at stopping is actually what leads to the message being repeated over and over and over and over and over again in various shapes and forms, right? So that was the A. That was kind of the first answer. And that one may be quite obvious to you if you're familiar with the channel, but the second one may not be quite as obvious, but it has to do with over. When we see somebody saying, I'm thinking a lot, then, that's quite objective. I am thinking a lot. There are a lot of thoughts, something like that. This is quite objective. But when we add overthinking, there's an element of subjectivity here. Let's explore further. Compare these two. This is another very common one. I'm too tired. Compared I'm bone tired with I'm too tired, right? When someone says I'm bone tired or I'm super tired, I'm just so tired, it is actually quite objective. It is somebody just stating how they're feeling. But if someone says I'm too tired or I'm excessively tired, there's an element of of criticism there, or subjectivity. There's basically a person saying like, I'm more tired than I should be, or I'm thinking more than I should, something is wrong. And this is indeed, it is a form of criticism. It's a form of criticizing, what's happening inside you. It's a way of saying like, what is happening inside me isn't right. There's something wrong with my reactions. I'm thinking too much. I shouldn't be thinking this much about this thing. But when we think about it in the context of insomnia, if you've been scared of something, if your brain thinks that there's a threat, its job is to problem solve, and it will keep thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking about something because it is trying to keep you safe. It's trying to find a solution. So when we see it this way, we see that it's actually perfectly rational for the brain to kind of keep spitting out ideas, keep thinking about the same thing to keep you safe. So, so I think it's really helpful to see that when we add this I'm overthinking this, or I'm thinking more about this than I should be thinking. That is actually a form of self-criticism, and self-criticism leads to us thinking there's something wrong with us, and it leads to kind of more friction, and again, more attempts at stopping this, and more struggle. So I think those two things were really, really helpful to see. So now to get kind of more, to clarify this even more and to get further, what are the two invitations? What are our two invitations here when somebody said, how can I stop overthinking? Well, to me, the invitations really are to hear the message and to be kind to ourselves. I think that those are two clear invitations. Now, to get more practical, like what do I mean here? How do I hear the message? Well, I think there's so many ways. Some people say that they just started like paying attention to their thoughts, but with a distance, like seeing the thoughts from the outside, saying, oh, that thought is there, or that thought is happening again. Then automatically you're hearing the message, but you're not engaging with it. You're not trying to stop it, or judging yourself for it. It's just hearing the message. And some people can just write it down. Maybe picking like a time during the day, doing, I call it a brain dump. If you have these recurrent thoughts, you can just write them down without without anything further. Just write down whatever thoughts are happening. Maybe pick 5 minutes a day where you write down all these thoughts. Do it every day, and that's the way to hear the message, or say it out loud. Just say what you're thinking about. Talk to your thoughts, things like that. Anything that isn't, going back to the analogy of trying to cover somebody's mouth, anything that isn't that, to me, is actually hearing the message. And when the message is heard, there's no longer a need for that message to be repeated. Okay. And the second question here is like, how can I be kind to myself in this context? Well, think of imagine you have this grandpa figure in your life, like this very kind, wise, older person, right? And imagine telling that person like, I'm just overthinking this. I'm overthinking this. What would that person say? Would they say like, why are you overthinking? Stop overthinking this. Of course not. They would go like, it's all right. Things like that happen. Nothing is wrong. It'll be fine. And if you can be that kind of grandpa for yourself, when you find yourself in this mode of sort of criticizing yourself or thinking that something is wrong, being this kind of grandpa person for yourself, then I think you'll find things being much easier and more peaceful. So as always, hope this made sense. Let me know in the comment sections what you thought, and look forward to having you back here real soon. I have a lot of ideas for content that I'm really excited about. So that's going to be some interviews, and and the new book I'm writing, Tales of Courage. I want to start sharing some parts of that, and much more. So anyway, just excited about everything. Again, let me know in the comment section what you thought, and we'll go from there. For now, bye-bye.